Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's moose watching vlog. It poured all day. The roads are a bit slippery, so we got to stay in four-wheel drive to prevent us from fishtailing. In the past 24 hours, I have seen 8 moose. And look at all that steam right there burning off of the forest in the sun. That steam right there coming off of the trees. Large amounts. It's really cool. There's a lot of logging trucks. I kind of hope we pass one today during this video. The log trucks can go really fast because they're heavy and they get better traction than I can. But some of these areas are very, very muddy today and makes you want to fishtail a little bit. I don't know if it's exactly late enough yet to see a lot of moose, but I saw one a half hour ago. Okay, my car usually doesn't do that. I need to shut that off today, I guess. How do I... There we go. It thinks I'm crossing over lines on a road, the sensor, because of the, I guess, the sun shining on that. If the sun's not shining on it, it doesn't ever do that. I was told that might happen a lot in the snow. Not really. It's rare. Road's fairly smooth, all considering. We're trying to go out and look at a couple more locations today before it gets dark, inspect them. There's really nothing that we usually go to that's clogged. The only thing I found today that was clogged is something that I had already marked for failure. So there's that. I can't do anything about it. And morally, because it's an abandoned road, I'm not going to touch it. So the beavers in that situation I saw earlier today, I don't think they're going to survive the winter with that pond. They're building a pantry, which means they cut down a whole bunch of their favorite sticks that they eat. They sink it in the water. It can freeze over the top, but they're supposed to be able to access it from underneath. Their lodge also, they built it in a drainage ditch that's only 5 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and maybe 50 feet long. The problem with that is, up here the ice can get 3 or 4 feet thick. It gets very cold up here. Their pond's gonna freeze solid. That's not what's gonna hurt them. They can chew their way out of the lodge, worst comes to worst. Predators. If they don't have a nice place to sleep for the winter, they're gonna probably get killed by predators. This is beautiful. Look at that. I need to get a still picture of this. This is a very, very beautiful section of road. Look at those trees with the low sun angle this time of the evening. That looks actually really, really nice. What type of tree? Those are aspen. This time of year, aspen is in peak, not birch. People will oftentimes mistake that for birch because sometimes the aspen trees can have a whitish bark. That's aspen. Aspen is beautiful weeks after everything else has lost its leaves. When everything else is in peak, aspen will still be green. This time of year, and I even got some beautiful pictures of it earlier today. Tamarack. Maybe we'll drive by a tamarack forest in this video before it gets dark. Tamarack is a type of pine tree that is not evergreen. It turns bright yellow this time of year, drops all its needles, and it grows back in the spring. It's a very beautiful, fast-growing tree. I have a couple of them in my yard that are mature. They're really big. And I've also planted a whole bunch more. I love them. They grow really fast. They're beautiful in the summer. They're beautiful in the fall. They're bald in the winter. In the spring, it looks really nice. I love how their buds open. It's so unique if you haven't seen it. This road also has notorious issues. The park rangers told me a couple of roads that I should check out while I'm here. We'll see about it. The road they told me is notorious for blockages, but it's also notorious for blockages that we cannot do. So we'll have to see. now they would just get rid of the plastic ones. But it depends on the company. I keep hearing some sort of high-pitched noise. Is it the radio? No. I don't know what it is. It may have been the radio. The volume was off, but it wasn't off. It could have been the radio I was hearing. Nope, I'm hearing it again. Things sometimes just squeak when you're driving on muddy roads or driving through water. Like, my old car is probably going to hit 400,000 miles by the end of the year. I've heard its bearings screech like crazy after driving through water. I once had it screeching like crazy for a week straight driving around on the paved roads. Then it magically stopped. 200,000 miles later, no issues. Bearings just sometimes squeak, I guess. I wonder if that's what I'm hearing. Okay, there's logging going on, so do not turn around in the middle of a road. Unless you have a good amount of visibility where you know that truck driver can stop if they happen to be coming around the corner. I'm stopping right here because I just saw something that I want to check out. With all this recent rain, the beavers are trying to build like crazy before winter strikes, because this area could have snow anytime now. It can snow now in this area. I think I could have done a 3-point. I did a 5-point because the edges of the road are soft and that ditch is full of water. Pretty sure we had yep, this is exactly what I thought it was. We had an epic unclogging right here earlier in the year, and it looks like to me the culvert's not working properly. Don't pull over too much. Okay, we're gonna leave the truck running. Let's get out and have a look. The truck beeps, letting me know I left it running and has the keys in it. If the keys are in it, someone could steal it. If I walk away with the keys, it won't shift into drive. Yeah, there's a little bit of a beaver dam in here. This was an epic one, actually, back in the spring. See, there's a little bit of something there. It doesn't look active, though. It looks like beavers tried to clog it, but then drought hit and they gave up. Because none of that I'm seeing there is fresh. In fact, that's so rotten. If it keeps raining like it has, it's probably going to wash out. But it was bad enough in the spring that this whole area in here was flooded. It was going back in there, coming into this ditch, going down there, overwhelming that culvert pipe. You might recognize this one from a spring unclogging. Yeah, none of this beaver debris is fresh. In fact, a lot of this is from the Forestry head on an excavator, just trimming the road back. Alrighty, back in. Let's turn around and keep on driving. We gotta sometimes get out and inspect those because you can't really tell from the vehicle. I've had ones that I nearly didn't get out at, thinking they were fine from the road. Indeed, they weren't. It could go either way when you get out to inspect one of these. Now, my truck looks really clean, doesn't it? The hood does, because I'm not splashing mud up there, but the back of the truck is so caked with mud you can't read the license plate. It's really, really bad. The running boards are piled up with mud where it scrapes off a little layer every time you open the door. It's muddy out here. But I love it. I love the muddy roads. The worst of the worst out here is during the spring. I've explained that a bunch of times, but because the ground up here can freeze over 6 feet down, when it starts thawing from the top down, especially if it's raining and has snow melt, the water can't sink into the ground because it's like a frozen liner a few feet down. So you can have areas of road that look dry but are retaining water because it's frozen deep down. So the sun will dry the surface of the road, and randomly as you're driving, you'll just sink down into it and get stuck. That's why I have a winch. It has probably saved me $10,000 in towing bills since I got it. My old car got stuck out here a couple of times. The first time, someone charged me $400 and they just pulled it out with a pickup. Another time, the Rangers helped me get it out for free. With this truck, I got stuck a couple dozen times, and I got myself out of every single problem. It is definitely worth it having a winch. They don't cost very much. It costs more to have it installed than the price of the actual thing. But it's quickly getting dark. This time of year, it's completely dark at 6. It's now about to be 4:54. 1 hour it'll be completely dark. This is the time moose like to come out. What would you prefer? Dust or mud? I prefer mud because I can pressure wash the truck very easily. I have oil undercoating this year, so I don't have to clean the undercarriage. The mud simply doesn't stick to the oil layer. It just falls off, which is nice. Dust is a pain. Dust gets into everything. It clogs up your air filters. Every time you open the door, the dust accumulated in the door jamb comes inside. You have to dust everything. It gets into everything you have inside the truck. It gets into toolboxes, equipment, everything. Dust is a disaster. These roads can get so dusty you can't drive for a couple of minutes when the big rig drives by you. It's so bad. Then you gotta use the windshield wiper to get the dust off. Every single time someone passes you, it leaves a blanket on everything. Now, this truck has good gaskets. It does not get in here from driving. It gets in from opening and shutting the doors. My old car, it would get in really, really easily through the gaskets. My old car might have a lot of miles, but that car is only about 10 years old now, and still the gaskets are already starting to dry rot. There's stuff I can put on them. I probably should before they get any worse. Slow it down around the corner. You should have seen how bad some of the mud was that I didn't record earlier today, especially where the log trucks are backing up, moving forward, heavy equipment in the road. It's pretty bad. I saw some of the coolest logging trucks today. There's this one logging truck loading another one. At first, because of the angle, I thought that the log truck was loading itself up. Some of the trailers have cranes. No, it was a tri-axle log truck with a crane loading a semi-log truck behind it that I couldn't see from that perspective. As soon as the other truck started moving, I could tell that it was a different truck. But that truck, sometimes it depends. The older equipment, that was a very old truck. The old equipment is more reliable. It's easier to work on. It's awesome equipment that they don't make anymore. But this thing had, I believe it had two Detroit diesel 2-strokes, this truck. 2 of them. Because as soon as the driver got into the cab to move it out of the road, because they were blocking the road for quite a while, but I didn't mind. I love watching them. As soon as he got out and got in the cab and started moving it, you could tell that was a Detroit 2-stroke. Extremely loud, reliable engine. Love those things. But as he was loading with the crane, it sounded like a Detroit 2-stroke. I believe the crane had one too. That's cool, because you could see the exhaust pipe on the crane. Some of the newer trucks, the engine will be powering the crane. It'll have hydraulics going from the truck's engine going back there to control everything. Hydraulics can spin it around, move everything. You don't need an engine on the newer ones. But the older ones had 2 engines, and that was really cool to see that. You can tell when a Detroit is moving around. It sounds like the Jake brakes are on as it's moving. They're so loud. I love those things. You're out here sometimes camping miles from the road, but yet you can hear that thing going by through the wilderness. Really cool machines. If you have never heard one, look up a video of a 2-stroke Detroit diesel engine. They stopped production of them in the 90s due to environmental concerns. That'd be kind of cool if Detroit started making them again. Those environmental regulations were dropped earlier in the year. I hope Caterpillar brings back their engines, because most drivers love those Caterpillar engines. So Caterpillar made super reliable engines, especially in the 90s, early 2000s, super awesome engines. Then they voluntarily in 2003 started putting DEF systems on them. They became so unreliable that Caterpillar outright stopped making on-road diesel engines. Those requirements didn't come out from the government until around 2010 or 2013, around there. So why they didn't start making no emissions again after they realized how bad these things really are, I don't know. But then again, Caterpillar started making a fleet of dump trucks around 2013, somewhere around there, I believe. They were so unreliable pieces of junk, they weren't selling, and now you do sometimes see them driving around, but no one wants to work on those things. We're driving by Tamarack. This is Tamarack right now, all the yellow you're seeing. But now that the EPA got rid of those regulations again, hopefully they bring back the good old engines that are super reliable, especially out here in the middle of nowhere. You want a reliable engine. You don't want something efficient. You want reliability over efficiency. And me personally, I can't stand the smell of exhaust coming out of a diesel engine with DEF. It smells like chemicals. It smells bad. While a pre-emission diesel engine smells like you just lit up a charcoal grill with lighter fluid. Literally smells like lighter fluid exhaust. A regular diesel engine. But that's what my boss has in his big semi, Caterpillar C15. They haven't made that in 20 years. They haven't made a reliable one in 23 years. That'd be awesome. I don't think they will, but I hope Caterpillar brings back their on-road fleet. You know, Caterpillar was one of the most trusted engines that they would put in trucks back then. Many truck manufacturers use those. They even used the smaller versions called the C7. It was used in many box trucks, moving trucks, light and medium duty trucks. Lots of things use that engine. And they're all still on the road today, unless they got rid of it because of either age or the vehicle itself was rusting. But those engines didn't die unless they got rid of them for a different reason. They were very reliable. I know a lot of school districts, until they were forced to get rid of them, they just refused to get rid of their school buses from the 90s and 2000s that had the C7. It was just so reliable. But then the newer buses built in the last 10 years, they have all these breakdowns that they never had in the past. It has to do with the environmental systems clogging and they're just not reliable. I watched some videos of these brand new international buses. I don't know what engine they're using, but the environmental system is clogging up just months of operation. Clogging. Brand new fleet of buses, pretty much useless. So that would be good to bring back those new ones, because I personally don't believe these new ones are better for the environment when you have to keep fixing them. constantly replacing vehicles. That's a big environmental impact. You know how much coal it takes to founder new metal, remake all this new stuff. When some of those older machines will keep running for decades and decades, they're usually put out of service because of age or excessive rust from lack of maintenance, not because they broke. Just like what I drive, most Toyotas rust before they break down, if they're naturally aspirated. These roads are beautiful to drive. I love this time of year. Can't believe how smooth this road is. They did a good job on this one, because big giant trucks have been taking this all day. Trucks that aren't street legal have been taking this all day. They don't have weight limits. Every truck I've seen today, I guarantee you, is over 120,000 pounds. They're over width. One of them had to have been at least 18 feet tall. These huge things just driving around out here. So the log trailers they have up here, it can be a regular log trailer, drive down the road, public road, no problem, no Y load permit. But when they're out here, they can extend the sides of the log truck so it's double as wide even. Many times they'll be driving around 1.5 width. So the width of the truck will, instead of being 8.5 feet, it'll be closer to 12, something like that. That's typically how you see them driving. Not too excessive, not too tipsy. But the fact that they're not rutting this up means they built this road very well. It's got a really solid base, whatever they used. But there was some areas today, it was mucking up really bad. But I've seen worse. I've seen the roads so bad that they have to push the log truck with a piece of heavy machinery to get it moving. Nothing like that today. If it gets too muddy, they'll probably just stockpile the logs until it gets drier. Next week looks dry again. But this week, we got nearly a foot of rain. That was really helpful. I'm not exactly sure what this area got. I just know at my house, a 5-gallon bucket in my yard filled more than halfway, just sitting out there. It's a good enough rain gauge for me. We got a lot of rain. Very beneficial. Next week will be dry again. I don't think they'll lift the fire bans yet, but if it is raining or if there's snow on the ground, you don't need a fire permit. I know last week during the rain I lit up my bonfire. Okay, we're gonna take straight, which the log trucks aren't going this route, so I don't think we would see one of them guys anyways, because most of them stop at 5. I said I saw one fully loaded. I think he's sleeping for the night. I think he's already clocked off. I don't know though. Especially with the mud. Certain times a year they'll run the trucks 24/7, like late winter, early spring, because they know we gotta truck it out now while the road's frozen. If we wait a week and that road thaws, it's gonna be a mud hole, and we're gonna get trucks stuck. So typically there's a period at some point between March and June the trucks cannot run, they can't operate. They just stockpile everything until the road dries out. You can't run log trucks in the spring thaw. They'd get stuck everywhere. You're very unlikely to see a log truck around here in the spring thaw. Winter's their favorite time. A lot of the trucks don't even chain up. It's more efficient and profitable just to run a truck down here throwing gravel over the top of the ice so the trucks can run faster. You can't run a truck faster over 30 miles an hour or 50 kilometers an hour with chains. It's too dangerous if the chain was to break. I've run chains and I am hesitant to even going over 20 with them or 30 kilometers an hour. I think I took the right road. I'm looking for a specific culvert that's usually problematic. I don't think we'll get to it by dark, but we will get to it tonight. And if there's no issue, we won't bother going to it tomorrow. We'll start a new area in the morning of culvert inspections. This time of year, we don't really find much of anything. You've got to inspect culverts during the spring thaw. The best absolute time to inspect them is when the snow has just melted, but the ground is still frozen and it's raining. When the ground is still frozen, it can't absorb rainwater or snow melt. That means the culvert pipes will be working overtime, becoming overcapacity, and that's when you can identify issues of flooding. If you want to know what size culvert pipe you need for a road, you have to study what it's doing during the spring thaw, not what it's doing in the middle of the summer. I see guys putting out ridiculous 18-inch or even foot diameter culvert pipes, and then they get plugged during the spring thaw and just wash out the whole road. It's ridiculous what they do with zero study or thought about the culvert pipe. You see coming up those yellow trees right there, that's more aspen. Pretty distinguishable. And to the right side of the road, we got more Tamarack. If you live on the west coast, you might call that tree larch. We call it Tamarack. Like, there's some trees that grow on the west coast that we also have. The west coast does not have pine trees. If you ever heard me on the west coast call it a pine tree, it's just a bad habit. Lots of people here call it a pine tree. Anytime they see an evergreen, it's a bad habit that we have here in New England. But what I noticed on the west coast, there is larch. We have that same tree. There's also black spruce. We also have that same tree. There's birch. Lots of things that are the same, just no pines. If log trucks have been using these roads, because you can tell by the tracks of other vehicles. You can tell the dually tracks of a semi from a pickup truck. It looks very different. Getting a little foggy, it looks like. Or anything of this pipe. I just know I gotta drive this another hour or two, and it's the first left after a logging camp. Then down that road a ways, I know what the entrance of another road looks like, and that's how we find it. It's a place I've filmed many times. I like that today every brand new plastic pipe, they're actually burying it very deep. We'll see how it holds up. Remember, the ground up here can freeze down 5 or 6 feet, so it's possible for frost to still crush some of these, while a metal one would be able to deflect that pressure. I think we could shut the 4-wheel drive off. This hasn't been slippery in a while. Save a little bit of fuel. Here's another culvert. Look at the nice fill they're using. It almost looks as if it's asphalt millings, but I doubt it would be because we're so far out in the woods. They don't truck in anything. They find whatever they use. So out here, there's areas they just dig into the ground, create a quarry, and it's like perfectly smooth river rocks, perfect for roads. Then there's other areas they'll dig up shale rock, which will ruin tires if you don't have really good ply tires. And in some areas, they'll literally bring out a rock crusher, but that's a little bit unusual to see out here. Usually they use whatever they can. It's not cost effective to truck anything really any distance out here. Not even worth it to scrap metal pipes. They just leave them in the woods to rust away. No problem with that. Iron is very abundant in Maine in the ground. Doesn't hurt a thing. However, I cringe when I see them throwing plastic garbage pipes in the woods, which are never going to deteriorate. Not in any of our lifetimes. It's just going to sit there in the sun, degrading into smaller pieces of plastic. This road's pretty smooth. We're up to 40 now. We're about 65 kilometers. This road's pretty smooth. Actually think about using one of Maine's campsites tonight, but I think I'll just sleep in the truck because it's getting dark. I don't know, maybe I'll turn the off-road light on. I did bring with me that 3-second tent. I like it because it's convenient. Now, 3 seconds is a good name for the thing because it's 3 steps. There's no way in the stretch of the imagination you can set it up in 3 seconds. But at the same time, it is very helpful. I'm not sponsored in any way, but people kept telling me to get one. And when I looked the product up through targeted advertisements, all my YouTube ads that kept playing were this tent. So I buy myself one, not realizing they have 3 different sizes. I use it for camping on Moosehead Lake in a kayak. I like it. First time setting it up took about 10 minutes because I had to figure out exactly how it operates. The instructions tell you that part of it you have to lift. I feel like people would have it easier understanding if it told you to squeeze, because that's what I do. I squeeze these 2 bars together and that's what gets it to collapse. I feel like the instructions would be a little more clear if that was the case. Anyways, the second time setting up that tent, I literally got the entire thing up in 30 seconds and collapsed in 30 seconds when I was done. That's a game changer, especially setting up a tent in the pouring rain or in extreme wind. It is so hard to put those tent poles through and get that thing up. many of the reviews on that product say, oh, it's so hard to put it down by yourself, maybe with 2 people, but 1 person, this is so hard. BS. Unless you're maybe 4 feet tall, I do not see how you're having such a problem reaching to the component in the middle. Now, this tent is considerably bulkier than a regular backpacking tent because of the mechanism that puts it up and puts it down so fast. It's a bit heavier. It takes up about twice the size of a 2-man tent in your backpack for 2 people. So I didn't realize there was different sizes. I bought their large one at first. They make an extra large one, I believe, for 6 people, and they also make one that's for 1 or 2 people, a very small version for backpacking. Side by side, I have to label them. The large one and the small one are exactly the same size pretty much when they're collapsed. The mechanism that sets it up is the same size, and that's what adds the most of the bulk to the product. So side by side, I cannot tell my large tent from my small tent. When they are set up, there is less fabric. The tent is physically smaller. But because of how it collapses, it's basically the same size when you're carrying it. I have no idea about the extra large one. I have no idea. I'm not going to buy it. I don't have a need for a very large one. But the small one, I will probably bring it backpacking, especially if I'm backpacking with a second person, because you can use it for 2 people. I really like how it clicks up, clicks down really fast, because sometimes I might be like, I don't want to camp here, it's raining. I can set this thing up extremely fast, and you don't even need a liner if it's muddy, because it has a very high quality floor. You don't need a tarp unless it's muddy to keep it off the tent. If you're setting up on grass, no problem. You're setting up on some kind of surface like a rock, big flat rock, perfect. But it's a very good idea, I think. The only thing is, you can't throw it in the washing machine because you cannot remove the tent poles. But I do think I can easily rinse it off with the garden hose because it sets up so fast. Pop it up, spray it off, let it sit in the sun. If it's the winter, pop it down, set it back up in the middle of the house, and just let it air dry overnight. Doesn't seem like a big deal. I really like the idea of it. So, if you are an avid camper like I am, don't make my mistake. I bought one, not through their website. It's the same price on Amazon. The big one is like $150. The small one is $120. But if you buy them together, you get them both for $179. That's almost, you're basically getting the small one for $20. You get $100 off if you buy them together. I was unaware there's 2 sizes that they sell together. I bought them both separately. Don't make my mistake. You can save yourself $100. It probably sounds like I'm sponsored. I'm not sponsored in any way. I have never taken a sponsorship in my life, and I don't intend on doing it unless I was ever absolutely struggling. And if I'm ever absolutely struggling, I'm just going to take more hours with the logging company. And I'm not going to do a sponsor. I have not had a business email in years. My old business email, I logged into it about a month ago. Over the past year of not logging into it, there is hundreds of sponsors trying to get to me. I don't even have to look for a sponsor. There's so many sponsors just begging to come to me. I don't respond to a single one. I just officially deleted the entire email. Let me think. Yes, I'm going the right way. Yeah, I don't have a business email anymore. Too many spam, people sending me inappropriate links and just outright harassment. The only way I accept messages now is through Patreon, where you have to physically upload an ID and a credit card. And that has kept all the trolls and a-holes out of there. Except for one. I've only had to block one person on Patreon over the 6 years of doing that. On the other hand, YouTube, I probably block 100 people every time I read the comments. And it's new people coming in who don't understand the logging industry. They're people that complain about how evil I am for unclogging a culvert. And, you know, for people saying that, I don't really care. But I will reply to them and say something like, okay, the next time the culvert at the end of your road is blocked, we'll just leave it there so it washes out. Hey, it's natural. You can walk. You don't need to drive out of your house when your culvert washes out. I'll just give a wise answer like that. And if they come back all angry, that's when I get rid of them. I used to argue with people back and forth in the comments. It's not worth it. Half of the time they're trolls. You just get rid of them. Whatever. I don't need people like that around. This is nothing but a tree farm at this point. There's no old growth here. You don't hear people complaining when the farmer is cutting down their cornfield. This is no different. This is a farm. Everything we're driving through right now. And I'm so glad that the Rangers are getting more on these vandals. The vandalism has gone crazy over the past 5 years or so. 5 years ago, you would never see stuff like this in the wilderness, but there's people that come out here, unfortunately, with the intention of vandalizing heavy equipment, stealing things, and graffitiing signs like that. I find it unfortunate that people like that exist. They're very misinformed people that don't understand anything about how the world works. They come out here to do stuff like that, and I don't think they realize that their house is made of wood. In the United States, it's almost certainly made of wood. They almost certainly have furniture made of wood. Unless you have a bidet at your house and you wipe your butt to dry it off with a cloth, you're using toilet paper. There's not many people who can say they don't use forestry products in some way, one form or another. And on top of that, the people that would be mad about them farming a forest, they should be focusing their energy towards people that are actually destroying old growth. There's no more old growth here. This is a tree farm. You have nothing to be mad about. I get mad too when I see a tree that's 1,000 years old getting cut down. But what you're seeing here getting cut down, these trees are all between 40 and 70 years old. They were all planted by the logging company. It's called a monoculture when they replant it. Every tree is exactly the same. It's no different than a farm at that point. And for modern society to keep going on, you need stuff like this. If you want to see something that's actually truly bad for the environment, look at any city, how bad that is for the environment. At least most logging companies are actually net zero. The amount of wood that they are growing, pulling all that carbon, that wood is going to build houses. They're not burning all of that. They burn some of the scrap to power their sawmills, but it's very minimal. They're actually pulling more out than is going in. Have you ever seen a cookie cutter neighborhood? They're basically made out of cardboard, chipboard, piles of garbage when I see those neighborhoods going up. I'm like, wow, someone pays $500,000 to live in a piece of cardboard. They don't even use real lumber. They use engineered lumber in their floor joists. It's an I-beam made out of chipboard. I can't believe people buy houses like that. The main carrying beam of the house is chipboard. If it gets wet, it'll swell and fall apart. Well, the chipboard products and stuff come from a forest like this. So maybe you should protest these temporary houses that have to be probably rebuilt every 50 years. And if they get the slightest leak in the roof, like I remember a day they would use plywood, pressure-treated plywood for rooftops. Now I see them using chipboard that's not pressure-treated for rooftops. Crazy people out there building these cardboard houses for maximum profit. I wonder if the people buying them even know how garbage they are. Maybe they'll put a fake brick facade up that isn't even connected to the structure properly half the time. I watch so many inspection videos of these new cookie cutter homes that are in my YouTube feed. They are pieces of junk. I thought my house that was built in the late 70s was kind of built cheaply. It's like when I go into my attic, the trusses are made of 2x3s. I was like, wow, this is thin. But some of these new houses, the trusses aren't even connected properly. They're such garbage. Like, I would choose a house built in the 50s or older any day. They were probably built with old growth, and they actually have A-frame construction, meaning the attic is usable, wide open space. But people just build bigger pieces of garbage as time goes on. If you want to protest something bad for the environment, that right there, chipboard covered in vinyl siding and just piles of junk. And as proven last year, if one of those cookie cutters gets exposed to a house fire or a forest fire, they go down like dominoes. They're so dangerous. I think buildings like that should be required to have sprinklers, but single dwelling, I think even dwellings that are up to a couple multifamily, they're not required to have sprinklers by building code, and they seem like traps. Now, big buildings I've seen go up. I can't believe I've seen stick-built apartment buildings that have hundreds of units go up. Yes, they have fire sprinklers, but they're made of wood. I wouldn't sleep sound living in one of those apartment buildings. All it takes is one moron somewhere in that apartment building to burn the whole thing down. I wouldn't trust a sprinkler system to stop something built out of flammable material like chipboard. I wouldn't trust it to be adequate. So many new buildings are failing inspections. A lot of people think, I'm having a brand new house built. Why would I have a brand new house inspected? Always have your house inspected. Have your foundation, rebar, everything inspected. Have it inspected before you pour. Make sure the rebar is put in there correctly. If the rebar is too close to the edge of that form, your house is screwed down the road. Make sure it's properly compacted before you want to do that. You want to have a pre-drywall inspection. You want to have electrical and plumbing inspections before the fixtures are put up while all the boxes are wide open. Because there are so many crooks in the building trades these days. You want to have an inspection done every single stage of your house. Some states don't require that. Some states do. And there is a reason. It's a pain in the butt to have a dozen inspections done on your house. But if the builder is horrible, I'm not going to mention any huge builders, but there's builders in the United States. One company will put up 100,000 buildings or more in 1 year. That's how big the company is, and they care nothing about they care only about profits, and they refuse to warranty these houses. Always have inspections done and force any builder to do. I have personally been ripped off by a main contractor, and there's really nothing I can do about it. And it was a contractor doing dirt work for me, and I won't have. Next time I'm just gonna rent heavy equipment for a quarter of the price, but it made sense at the time because it was during my busy season. It was cheaper for me to hire someone and continue working my job. I will never do that again. I will do any construction I need myself. It was a guy I hired to dig a big hole so I could build a shed in my yard on a little slab. I have since completely abandoned the entire project after this guy just made the yard into a complete mud hole. I kind of just gave up on it for now. But there's really nothing I can do legally or anything, because good luck even proving the guy did it. I did not have a camera on that guy. I should have. I just have a doorbell camera. I should probably add many more cameras to my property. I really should. The thing is, I can't prove it, so I'm not even going to try to fight it. Next time I will rent heavy equipment for a week and do everything myself, and I'll get experience in the time being with whatever piece I use. I have some experience with excavators. I have a little more experience with skid steers, maybe 30 hours in the cab of one of those, which still is very minimal. 30 hours is like 5 days of work for someone in a regular machine. They would accomplish what I did in less than a week. It's not much experience, but it helps, because once you know how to operate one of those machines, it's pretty easy to catch on to other machines. But if I got into like the cab of an excavator or a bulldozer that's 40, 50 years old, I'm gonna need someone to show me how to use that, because they don't use joysticks back then. They were more difficult to learn how to use them. But they're more reliable, the older ones. But as I get older, I get wiser, and it'll be much more difficult for people to rip me off in the future. I had one guy once try to charge me over $20,000. No, actually, it may have been $19,000. Whatever it was a lot of money. They tried to charge me a lot of money when I bought my abandoned house. They told me that the mold in there was so bad. I had someone come into my house to do mold testing, because I wanted to know, is this a toxic form of mold, or is it a different form of mold? Because toxic black mold, despite its name, it's usually dark green, not black. But there's different types of toxic mold, but many molds you will find in your house are not toxic. I had this mold inspector come in, do some testings, swab it, bring it back to the lab. Paid him like $120 to do that. He came back to me and he told me what it would cost for them to fog the entire house. And his critical mistake was, he told me what chemical they'd be using, and he told me the public cannot buy this. I reached out to the company that makes it, and they did sell it to me. There was one chemical that stays in the building's wood forever. When you spray it there, it's there until the building's torn down. Nothing will ever grow on it again. It's $300 a gallon, and you can dilute it slightly. That's all I needed, was 1 gallon. I also use MMR, mold stain remover. When you kill mold, you want to use MMR, mold stain remover, because if a home inspector ever comes in there, if I ever sold my house, they're going to see this staining everywhere. And they're going to tell the buyer, you have mold here. But the thing is, the mold's dead. I'm just removing the mold stain, basically bleaching it with chemicals. I made a uh-oh. Remember back there where I paused for a minute? I was like, oh, nope, this is the right way. Nope, it was the wrong way. It's okay, though. We were actually supposed to be going the other way. That's okay, though. We'll get there eventually. Anyways, MMR mold stain remover is $30 a gallon. Buy only what you need, because it has a 6-month shelf life and it will expire even if it's not opened. It's an awesome chemical. You need to wear a respirator. I have a video of me treating an entire shed with it. The shed was so aged, covered in mold and moss. Sprayed it with this, it looked like brand new lumber again after it bleached everything out of it. And after it dries, supposedly you can paint right after. It's highly corrosive towards metal. So if you care about your hinges or whatever you might get it on getting rusty, wipe it off immediately. It'll also eat through fittings on PEX pipe and copper plumbing. It's an awesome chemical. He was going to charge me like $19,000, and I treated the entire house myself for less than $500. The mold never came back. He made it out to be such a big hazard. Oh, the mold's going to come right back. No, it never did. I run a dehumidifier just in case. Mold's not as bad as he, but as soon as you, sir, told me that it's not toxic mold, you lost my business. I'm going to do it myself. Don't let companies fool you and scare you. I do all my own electrical work and some of the plumbing myself whenever I have a problem. And when I'm done, I just have an electrician come over who I'm friends with, and he'll inspect it and check it off. Just in case my house ever burned down, I have proof that it was inspected by a professional. But back to building codes and stuff. Some areas, I think Vermont, you are allowed to put up any flimsy structure you want, no building permit, they don't care. As long as no one's under the age of 16 living there, and it must pass an inspection if you ever sell the property. I like that. You can put up any flimsy structure you want. And if you want to build a log cabin or something like that, there's oftentimes building codes don't apply because it's raw lumber, which a lot of times these days, unfortunately, it's illegal to do, even though it's probably 10 times stronger than anything else. But that being said, sometimes building codes and rules can be a little extreme, especially if you're doing something yourself on your own property. Who really cares? If someone trespasses and gets hurt on your property, it's their own fault. I would say it's your fault if you don't have no trespassing signs, but if you have it legally marked, I think the judge is crooked if they follow with the criminal. Like, there's crazy court cases where people have got injured robbing someone's house and then they're able to sue the homeowner. I find that ridiculous. And that's why I'll never live in Connecticut. That's where that famous court case, I believe, took place. A guy was robbing a house and fell through the skylight and was able to successfully sue. That judge is a horrible person. But places like Maine, private property is open to the public unless you have it posted with a no trespassing sign at least every 400 feet that is visible. The lettering of the no trespassing sign must be over 2 inches in font. Or you can paint a tree purple every 400 feet, but everyone I have asked does not know about that law even existing. It will stand up in court supposedly, but since nobody even knows it's a thing, I won't do that. I'll put up a no trespassing sign, double the minimum, every 200 feet at least. Even in my opinion, I think I should have one at least every 100 feet. Because walking through the woods, it's very easy to miss a sign that's 400 feet. Every state's a little different. Maine is the only northern state, at least an only northern state in New England, that has that purple paint law. There's a lot of southern states that have that law. And when I say a lot, I mean half of the southern states. It's very uncommon, that law, if you put the United States into a whole. So for that reason, if you're going to do the purple paint thing, use it in combination with no trespassing signs, because nobody I ask even knows that's a thing. And if no one knows it's a thing, people are going to trespass anyways. And it will supposedly hold up in a court of law, because ignorance to the law is no excuse. But if someone's wandering in your woods and trips on a tree stump, how is that the landowner's fault? If someone trespassing steps into a bear trap, okay, it should have been clearly marked by the trapper. If you step in a bear trap on a sign that is clearly posted and you're trespassing, that's your fault. That's how my mind works. Alright, it's getting dark enough. dashboard so I can see out there better. We're going to turn the off-road lights on. Yep, they're slightly helping. It's got dark enough. This week is our final end of the year inspections on many of these roads before they freeze over. We'll probably run this video maybe another 20 minutes before I shut it down. Maybe if I feel like it, I'll do a nighttime moose vlog. But this is the time the moose would be out. It's not raining. It stopped raining hours ago. So the moose should be out and about tonight. When it's dreary, they don't really like walking around. But it's not raining. It's actually very warm out for the end of October. It's exactly 50 degrees right now, or 10 degrees Celsius. I'll probably just get better and better traction as this water sitting on the road slowly goes away. But still got to really watch it around corners. This road, they are actively sending log trucks down this section of it. Recognize where I came out if I even went by it yet. Road is so smooth right now. The heavy trucks packing it. This feels like pavement, it's so smooth. Stuff today since daybreak. I'll probably go to sleep in like a couple hours, but I'll still continue inspecting things into the night, things that are usually problematic. I got my big flashlight. This weather is actually ideal in my opinion. I love when it's about this temperature. We just drove over a culvert that we unclogged a while back. It was so jammed up that it had to have been there decades. There was roots in it. It was bad. It has not clogged since. up that we might have a brief signal. That's where I came out of earlier. On the only track that came out of there since it stopped raining. This is the best time of the year. You can drive all day without passing another vehicle. It is hunting season for a few different types of animals. But when it's dreary like this, you don't really see the hunters either. This road's so smooth. It's a bit foggy up here. I'll have to start going slower once it gets dark. It's very easy to come up upon areas that are muddy and dangerous to keep this speed up. Here we got some good foliage. See these arrows going around the corner? They must have had a decent crash. This is a main artery. I flagged a culvert back here in the spring. Did they take my ribbons down without fixing it? Or did they actually fix it? I want to take a look. Let's get out for a moment. I'm even the one who stood that sign up right there. I doubt they fixed that properly either. See that arrow? I bet it's still strung up with zip ties. Temporary fix, because that sign could save someone's life. It's there for a reason. Let's get out for a moment. Okay. So that sign, I bet you it's strung up with a zip tie. Yep. That was me. Straighten it a little bit, or at least angle it towards the road. That's much, much better. So I 100% at this location put a whole bunch of noticeable ribbons because I see a hazard here. This whole gully down here was filling with water because the culvert pipe was completely clogged. And this road's not meant to be a dam. It's a washout hazard and a sinkhole hazard. That water finds a way through this engineered road. It could wash out without you even noticing it. I see water trickling out of the pipe. That's promising. But in order to figure out if they actually did something, I need to walk down here. And if they didn't do anything, I'm gonna put up a whole bunch more ribbons. Unless they did it like I do it by hand. There's no evidence a machine came down here. When I was down here in the spring, this whole gully was full of water, which is not nice. And I just touched this cedar tree, which unloaded water all over me. Water's not that deep, and it's clearly coming out of the pipe on the other side. I don't think anyone did anything. Let me see. No, that's not a culvert. I don't know where the pipe is. But especially with these cold winters, see how there's water sitting here right now? That freezes solid. Even this little seepage you see is not going to get out. So when this freezes, this ice is going to remain there. Then the spring thaw comes along. There's no culvert pipe. We gotta flag it again. You see, people like this is why the world goes downhill. I come out here and take the time inspecting these hazards, and then when my boss sends someone out here to actually take care of it, I bet they didn't even walk down here and look for it. They just see a little bit of water coming out of the culvert and they're like, oh, it's fine, there's no flood. They take down all my ribbons. And they don't care what might happen to the underside of the road that they don't understand one bit. And they definitely took my ribbons down because I put a whole ton of them, making this super noticeable. We're gonna pull out the pink ribbon. We're gonna pull out the blue ribbon. We're gonna light this place up with ribbons. Oh my gosh, is that a logging truck? Nope. That's the truck bringing out a piece of heavy machinery. So, anyways, we put up a blue ribbon, meaning there's a water issue, and pink means there's a potential hazard to the road. Other side made it super noticeable, just in case they don't do anything about it right now. When this grows back in with fresh foliage in the spring, you'll still be able to see it. All right. Liability's off me now. Okay, let's continue on. I think I'm going to end the video here, everyone. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. If I see anything too extreme, I'll make a separate video of it.